Now on BBC One from Arena, a portrait of a man who's not only a great Presley fan, but a very accomplished artist, The King and I.
Love me tender, love me sweet, let me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will.
I first turned on to Elvis as a teenager in the mid-50s. He's always been the king for me. But it was a serious bout of diabetes that really brought us together. Although I've been painting Elvis for years, it was only when I was really ill that I could afford to devote myself to him full time.
Never part. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill.
I've done more pictures of Elvis Presley than anybody else. It's a very easy image to use. It's a very sort of beautiful image in that way. And when you look at photographs of all that particular era, you know, I mean, his looks alone have carried him quite a long way, I guess. Presley's physical appearance was crucial in his career. In fact, his classical looks had a timeless quality about them. For example, this is a fairly free interpretation of John Cocteau's and Picasso's rather stylized version of a Greek god, which is easily transferred into the boy king.
In 1964, at the age of 26, David Oxtoby became visiting professor at the Minneapolis Institute of Fine Art. He had just completed 4 outstanding years at the Royal Academy in London.
When I first arrived at the Academy, there was this very sort of dowdy sort of room, and I'd heard lots of rather doomy stories about the Academy. And I walked in, there was this sort of semicircular seats that one had to sit in with your drawing board and look at this little plinth with this awful model sat on top and this piece of rope that looked as though they used to participate in hangings or something there. And it felt a bit like that. It's very dowdy, very dungeony type of place. And I sat there, and I sat there for a couple of days, and I knew that I had 3 months life drawing to do as a sort of probationary thing. And I sat drawing this figure. And in a while, this old guy came in with his sticks, and I thought, oh God, you know, I mean, I'll never stand it. And he walked up behind this sort of professional virgin-looking lady who was drawing this thing, and he said, don't know what you're trying to do, love, but it's like pissing against Niagara. And I thought, well, that's it, you know, I mean, this is it, this is for me. And I settled in really well after that. Recently, I've had a few critics say that, in fact, I've leapt on a sort of rock bandwagon, which I suppose they've every right to say so, but it's not necessarily true, seeing as, in fact, I guess I've come along with it. You know, everybody's really come to me rather than me go to them. Some people say that I'm too affectionate towards these people, but it was a formative period for me, as it was for all the rock influences that came out at that time. So, in fact, one can't avoid being affectionate to a certain extent. This is a picture of Joe Cocker, which I've called Sheffield Steel, because I feel that, I mean, he obviously comes from Sheffield, but I feel that the Americans have stolen him off us, really, in a way. He's, I'm a great fan of his, really. He's one of the best English sort of blues singers, I think. He's got a tremendous sort of voice. My pictures are a response to the music. They're not really portraits. I don't think of them as portraits. They happen to look like people because they are that person. So I try and make it look like that guy up to a certain extent. But the main point of the picture is the feeling one gets from it emotionally. Not that it happens to be Joe Cocker or Elton John or Daughtry or whoever else. This is probably the largest coloured pencil drawing I've ever done. It's Chuck Berry, and in it I wanted to try and capture that force and the power of his performance. I think he's a very underrated performer, although some people have asked his advice, and I did hear that one young guy just started in the rock business asked him what was the first thing he should do, and Berry said, take a business course. Another survivor of the rock era. This is the Big O. His life read really like a Russian tragedy. It started badly and got worse. What I've tried to do with this particular picture is introduce a sort of pale blue type of willowy voice that he's got by using this iridescent blue in the background and through his glasses. I've met him, actually. I did a record cover for him and I met him. He looks a bit like a ferocious Christmas pudding, but he's quite charming, really.
Balls of fire.
This is a picture of Jerry Lee Lewis. It's called Rip-Off Poster Part. And the idea was that there's one straight edge and three ripped edges, so it could have been ripped out of a poster. In my book, it's been straightened off. All the edges are straightened off, so really it defeats the point of the title, but that's what it's based on. Carl Perkins came round to see me while I was working on this and a couple of other things, and at the time, in the 50s, you couldn't get coloured photographs of people. They were all black and white. So I asked Carl, I said, what colour eyes has Jerry Lee Lewis got? And he said, mostly red. This is Bob Dylan. I didn't actually get into Bob Dylan until I was teaching in Minneapolis when I bought Highway 61 Revisited. The first time I saw Bob Dylan was in 1964 in Greenwich Village, and he was very influenced then by Woody Guthrie. I went into a bar with a friend of mine and I said, I'm not standing here listening to this guy, he's just too much like Guthrie, and I walked out after a couple of numbers.
It's quite low black and white too. Yeah, because even for Copenhagen, I think we should have some other modern things.
Yeah, the thing is, we can get that anyway. I think we've got a couple of copies left of that, despite of Elector having troubles.
Ray Charles.
I've been working towards a major exhibition of 50s rockers since 1975. Actually, this is more relevant, isn't it? Because it's going to be an entirely 50s show. We just had a show in London, and Dave and I are making a final selection to send to Copenhagen. The Danes seem quite keen on rock music. This one. I've had a few exhibitions in the States, but not too many in Europe. In fact, the last exhibition I had was in Stockholm, and the gallery owners absconded with all my pictures. I'm not awfully keen on exhibiting outside of England.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show, three to get ready, now go, cat.
Well, you all know who this is. I based it on a Fairground motive because in the early 50s, the Fairground was the only place you could actually hear this music properly. And it has that whole effect.
Step in my face, slander my name all over the place. We'll do anything that you want to do. But honey, lay off them shoes and don't you step on my blue suede shoes.
This is a self-portrait. That's me down there. This other guy's a singer.
Let's go, cat. Oh, walk the dog. Well, I saw my baby walking.
This is Bill Haley, who did the soundtrack for Blackboard Jungle, which I saw at Putsey Empire in 1843.
Ooh, well, I gotta get with a record machine. When it comes to rockin', she's a queen.
Most people make a mess of reproducing this picture. For all you colour printers, the secret is Royal International Blue. Oh, by the way, this is Fats Domino, who's walking to New Orleans. Gene Benson. This is ridiculous. Is that all right for sound, Arthur? This is the immortal Jimi Hendrix.
Hey, Joe, where you going with that gun of yours?
Soon after this filming, Oxtoby suffered a serious setback. What happened?
Well, apparently, nearly all the images that you've just seen were on exhibition in Copenhagen. And on the way back, they were stolen, which was surprising enough in itself. But they were driven to a quiet country road by a gang of Italian bandits, and they set light to the whole van. So all the major pictures have been burnt completely. I suppose they just don't like 50s rockers.
What are you going to do? What about etchings and things like that?
Etchings, well, Editions Electo burnt down before Christmas, destroying most of my etchings. And the plates have been destroyed as well, I believe. I'm not sure how many are left and how many they can actually print. So it's hard to say just how many exhibitions I can actually, I mean, I've got commitments this year that I don't think I'll be able to fulfill them.
What about your lithographs?
The lithographs were flooded out when they dug a hole in the ceiling of the etching department to allow the water to come through from the hoses, and 15,000 gallons of water poured onto the lithographs. So the plates apparently are all right for those, but as to the images themselves, I don't know. Just don't know.
So what are you going to do?
Start again.
Lend me your comb. It's time to go home. Gotta confess, my hair is a mess. Your mama will scold. Your daddy will shout. As we come in.
This is my 1955 6T Thunderbird, 650cc with an SU carb.